I was not anticipating dropping my bombshell out there to the world when we talked last time, but I'm really glad I did.
Where are you in the investigation at Newman Academy with the 3 people arrested for basically sex crimes against students?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have concluded most of the investigation at this point internally to crimes. And so what I mean by that is that we have filed charge sheets with the district attorney's office on those 3 individuals. We are fairly certain that we have no more offenses within our school district related to this incident that we're going to pursue. We have now transitioned our investigation to more of a background into the individuals and potential previous offenses since we last spoke.
When it comes to the number of victims, has that changed since the beginning of the investigation?
Internally, it's been the same 2 victims that we had from the very, very beginning. No additional victims internally. However, externally now, I believe the count is 11, going back to 1993. 2 of the suspects, we have, people have come forward and shared their story. And so we're looking at those fact sets that they've shared with us and trying to determine whether or not we have criminal offenses we can go forward with on those individuals.
Does it surprise you, Chief, that people have come forward after the start of this investigation? Did you expect it? Is it a surprise?
You know, part of the strategy in these things is to get witnesses, utilizing the media to do that. And so I'm not going to say I was surprised, but I've been surprised in the interactions.
Right now, there are probably people watching this that are holding secrets about being abused. What's the overall message to victims?
You have no shame. The shame is on the person that violated you. I was not anticipating dropping my bombshell out there to the world when we talked last time, but I'm really glad I did. I've had some personal healing in that. I've also, I think my count now is 15 friends across my life career have come to me and confided to me that they've been holding something secret, a dark shadow of their life. We've had 11 victims come forward. And as of last night, I even had somebody all the way down in the Cypress Fair reach out to me on my cell phone and say, "You don't know me, but this is what I'm dealing with." And so I think I'm going to use the word courage because that's the wrong word. I think the prompting that caused me to share my personal story has created a place of trust for other victims, other survivors, to feel like they have somebody that seemingly has it together, that's in a position of authority with a small platform that might be able to bring them some semblance of justice, or at least somebody that would listen to them.
Your responsibility is Newman Academy. Is this just a Newman Academy problem?
So let me correct you first. My responsibility is anyone that is a vulnerable population to protect them. My responsibilities go beyond my oath. I swore an oath to God and when I swore my oath to the Constitution of this country. And so my call is so much greater. My assignment is so much greater than Newman Academy. My boss even says that, by the way, which is interesting. And so please respectfully hear me that my calling is well beyond Newman Academy. My responsibilities as a police chief is Newman Academy. As a Texan, the laws are clear. I have to report all abuse I come to knowledge of. And so I believe my responsibility is well beyond the 4 walls of Newman Academy. It goes well beyond that. And so my responsibility is to provide people a resource, in my opinion. And to answer the second half of that, it's pervasive. It's an epidemic. Those are not my words, by the way. Those are words the TEA themselves have used. There's an epidemic in Texas schools of inappropriate relationships between educators and students and child grooming. I think the difference is Newman. People have been shocked at our level of transparency. I'm shocked that anybody wouldn't be transparent in these situations. We have an obligation to the constituency to provide justice, to give a voice to somebody that in theory has no authority. But what I will tell you in my life is that my abuse actually provided me the authority that I operate with. It gives me the ability to relate. It gives me the ability to be motivated when it's hard to be motivated, to continue the course when it feels like there's no chance to fix the systematic institutional problems in Texas schools.
Is there a promise on the table to the victims of Newman Academy from you and your people?
You're talking to people, aren't you? Yeah. Sent a bunch of text messages when I left Austin Monday. And I said, you may not get justice in the court, but your voice is being heard. I may not be able to get you justice for what happened to you, but I want to make sure that together we make sure people know. We take away the shame of victims, shine light into the darkness, and hold people accountable. I don't get paid to hold people accountable outside Newman Academy. But I've made a promise to every single person that's reached out to me, whether it be an email or a text message or a phone call or an interaction, that I'm going to do something for them. I just don't know what I can do. But for some reason, God's given me this opportunity right now in this assignment to be a voice for them. And so, yeah, we've got a promise on the table. It's a very clear promise. And we're not going to stop until we come full circle on that promise.
You're called to Austin to testify. First, take me back to that moment when you were first asked. How did that hit you?
Even though some emails I've gotten say I like this, I don't like any of this, Scoop. I don't like any of what's going on with me. I'm a guy that likes to keep my head down and work. I like to just get things done. Last thing I want to do is be in front of your camera talking to you about this stuff. I'd rather talk about sports or something with you. But I get called and I get asked if I'd be willing to go down there and be an advocate for change. And I literally said, I don't think I can help you. And then the person said, but I thought you told us that you were going to try to change things. I said, okay, I'll be there when you need me there. And they said, tomorrow. And I said, okay. Moved meetings around, and I went down to Austin to talk about the problems and provide what I think are some solutions. And for the second time in my life, I spoke public about what happened to me.
You feel you were heard while you were there?
Yes. Credit to the Senate Committee on Education. They're taking this serious. I actually believe that they care. I just don't know that they can get it done. Politics.
What is your big ask for Austin? How do you feel this?
Yeah, I'm calling for 4 things.
Okay.
I'm calling lawmakers to establish an office of Inspector General that is independent of political influence, to investigate a very narrow scope into institutional problems related to the sex assault of children in our schools. I want this office of independent Inspector General to be able to deal with not just the process administrative stuff, but to be a law enforcement entity that can take action when it's discovered that people have tampered with witnesses, tampered with evidence, failed to report, destroyed those things, and to oversee the administrative requirements under Texas code. We're not talking about some things that aren't clear in code. Superintendents have an obligation under the current existing laws. All Texans have that same obligation to report sexual abuse when they find out about it. So I'm calling for that. I'm calling for training of not just, this is not a municipal police versus school police issue. This isn't a charter school versus ISD issue or private school. We have a problem that children are being sexually assaulted. And we need somebody that can come in and train anybody that will respond in appropriate response. Because a lot of the pain that I'm talking to people about when I'm holding their hands is the assault was bad, but the institution's assault after was worse. And to be clear with you, probably my greatest part of my trauma was the people that were supposed to protect me didn't, even when they knew. So that's the first thing. Second thing being training. The third thing I'm looking for is them to kill some of these loopholes and gaps in the law. Make sure that the laws that they're passing in Austin reconcile with other laws that are existing on the books. Make sure that we're not creating gray space in the law. Clarity in the law. I think it's super important for clarity in the law so that we can operate. And the final thing I'm asking for is for them to look at trauma-informed care differently. Most people don't realize that the assault of the child is only the beginning. And so from the institution of the knowledge of the assault, we should be caring about students immediately with trauma-informed care. We should be giving them an opportunity to, like in Title IX, have an option to leave the institution without penalty. Here's an example. I listened to a story recently of a high school volleyball girl that was probably headed to D1, assaulted by her assistant coach. She couldn't continue to play volleyball, but she had to stay there in the same. Now, they did the right thing with the assistant coach, but she was still in the program. She couldn't transfer to another school because then she would have lost her rights to play volleyball. So we're putting trophies over children. It's mind-boggling to me. If a child needs to move from school A to school B, there should be no penalty if they're a victim of a crime. And if you put till adjudication's done, that's 10 years till all the appeals are settled. That student's out of school by then. Their life has changed. And again, this is the institutional trauma. And so we need trauma-informed care and administrative policy that allows a student from the time they report sexual abuse from an educator all the way through the adjudication and beyond, in my opinion, until they're 23 to 25 years old and their brain is fully formed. So that they have a chance, like me, to be successful in spite of what happened to them. And so those are the four things I've called for. There are bills that are there now, and I'm going to let you know personally who doesn't vote for them and who interferes. Because I think any politician that isn't willing to represent the most vulnerable, our children, needs to be outside of the power place in Austin. We need to make sure we fire them. We need them gone. We don't need executives providing influence. One of the things that this Attorney General or this Inspector General thing has to be is that it needs to be outside being an appointment by the governor. Because if the governor appoints them, you think one governor appointee is going to hold another governor appointee accountable? That's cute. Not going to happen.
No. In your investigation into the Newman Academy case, you learned that one of your suspects faced investigation in another school.
Well, both of them. But so let me be clear. One of our suspects has been investigated for sexual inappropriate behavior at two separate schools dating back to 1993. One of those schools has since shut down, a private school, Texas Christian Academy, TCA, here in Arlington, Texas. The other school he worked at was Fort Worth ISD, who failed to cooperate with me until I got a search warrant. And I know why. Because they allowed him to resign in lieu of further investigation. 2006, inappropriate behavior investigated, sustained. Still working there. 2011, inappropriate behavior, sustained.
What does that do to you?
Makes me mad. Because what we dealt with at Newman could have been prevented had people followed the laws that are on the books. And by the way, I have a church that's not cooperating with me right now because one of my suspects was a pastor there, a youth pastor there. I don't have words for it. What are people thinking? Hey, I get making mistakes. I've made plenty in my life. I am far from perfect. But come on. That memo, by the way, they knew what I was looking for. I learned about that memo from my suspect. My suspect, under Miranda, during an interrogation, told me what to look for regarding the other institutions. In some weird way, as if he felt like it justified his behavior now. It's insane. We have children who have been sexually assaulted. And taxpayer dollars are funding it. Taxpayer dollars are paying schools that are not doing what is on the law books to do. Now, I'm very proud to say that the Senate committee was pretty, to say sporty over this is an understatement. And I know action's already being taken. But the problem is I also know that in those actions being taken, there's still an attempt to cover up. I know that. Now, I can't get ahead of investigations, and I wouldn't do that, but I know that I know, based on what I'm being told by state officials. And here's the problem. Matt Antkowiak and his little tiny police department covering Newman Academy, we don't have the reach and authority to deal with this. But we still have to deal with it because when the trash is passed, it lands in my house. And my kids that I'm responsible for get sexually abused. It's insane to me.
With the path that you're on now, Chief, what do you say to those would-be perpetrators that are in school districts? What is your word to them?
What I know, this is not a Newman problem. But there are people that actually care. And I said this before, I'm going to use every authority granted to me, every relationship granted to me, every opportunity to force people that are in the positions that can make change and go after these people. And we're coming for you. You know, I had a friend of mine say, "What can you do? You're just one dude." I'm like, no, I serve a good God. The effort's mine, the outcome's his. And I'm going to put the effort in. I don't have a choice. See, it's somebody, I've had all kinds of arrows thrown at me since this happened. That I'm on a vendetta, that I'm just trying to hurt people. Now, what I'm trying to do is protect children from people that can't keep their hands off of them. And so if that's a vendetta, well, that's one I'll carry. If that's a cross, I'll bear it. But what I know is that I serve a big God that can use a little guy like me in a big way, and I've got an all-in ticket on the table for this. And I'm not going away. They can come after me every way they want to come after me. They can take my licenses away. They can take my job away. They can sue me. They can threaten me with laws. They can do all that stuff. But you know what they can't do? I live in the greatest country on the planet. They can't shut me up. And so I'm going to use every bit of authority I have, influence I have, until I stop breathing. Because it is one way I give myself justice.